The Atlanta Braves cannot wait. They have to lock up Ha-Seong Kim right now before the offseason even begins. I'm going to tell you why on today's episode of Locked On Braves, so let's get into it.
You are Locked On Braves, your daily Atlanta Braves podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, and welcome back to Locked On Braves, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta, where we cover your favorite Atlanta sports teams each and every day. I'm your host, Jake Mastroianni. You can follow me on social media at shortstop ball. Check out the podcast there at Locked On_Braves on X and Locked On Braves on Instagram. If you're new and you're watching on YouTube, do me a huge favor, hit that subscribe button as we're approaching 15,000 subscribers. Thanks to Doc's Cards out there for pushing that 15K by World Series, end of World Series promotion right now. Thank you so much for that. And you can also help others find us on YouTube. Just hit that thumbs up button. Leave me a comment down below. Thanks for all of you who continue to comment on these videos, whether you like them or not, just to help others find us here at Locked On Braves. Thank you so much for your support. And on the audio side, you can help out too. All you got to do is leave a 5-star review on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast. Thanks so much for making Locked On Braves your first listen of each and every day. Today's episode, we're going to talk a lot about Ha-Seong Kim and why I think the Braves need to go ahead and get a deal done now. Don't even let him get to his player option. Make it happen right now. We'll also get into a little bit from Tuesday's game and some big news around Major League Baseball as the automatic ball and strike system is coming into play in 2026. So a lot to get to on today's episode, which is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. The Atlanta Braves have been searching for a shortstop for several years now, really since Dansby Swanson left. You've had some good moments from Orlando Arcia, some good defense this year from Nick Allen, but this team's really been searching for a shortstop for quite a while now. And shortstop, as you might expect from my Twitter handle, I think is a very important position. And the Braves have one that they need to keep around. Look, when the Ha-Seong Kim move was made, and the season that he was having with all the injuries and when he was playing, how he was performing, it seemed pretty obvious that he was going to that he was going to pick up that player option and that he would be the Braves shortstop in 2026. I think that's probably what Alex Anthopoulos thought would happen. But because he's been so good with the Braves, and let's not overreact to a very small sample size, but he's been good in the past and he's playing well now, I think even more than that, it's just the fact of where the free agent market is going to be this offseason. We'll talk more about that in the second segment. But here's why I think the Braves need to go ahead and try to make a deal happen right now. The numbers through Monday for Ha-Seong Kim with the Braves, 68 at bats. So again, very small sample size we're dealing with here. 21 hits, a double, 3 home runs, 14 runs, 12 RBI, 7 walks to 12 strikeouts, no stolen bases. He got caught stealing once, but slashing 309, 372, 456 with an 828 OPS. I mean, the Braves have been dealing with a 550 OPS at the shortstop position all year long. Now, on the downside for Ha-Seong Kim, -3 outs above average OAA with the Braves this year at shortstop. Would be the first year that he's ever had a negative defensive run value on Baseball Savant. He had a +7 OAA in 2022 as a shortstop, and it was +4 in 2024. Now, perhaps a little bit of grace is needed here with Ha-Seong Kim because of all of the injuries, but you also have to wonder if it's a guy who's going into his 30s, 5'10" shortstop, a lot of injuries over the last several years. Is this the decline of him defensively? Is he going to be a negative defensive player? Or again, do you just kind of give him a little bit of a grace because he's had to deal with a lot of injuries this year? My eye test just tells me he's not as good as I would have thought for somebody that was Gold Glove caliber in San Diego with the Padres. There's certainly been some good plays that he's made. There's also been some potential great plays that he could have made that he didn't make. But again, I'm willing to give him a little bit of a pass because of all the injuries that he's dealt with this year. The other thing is that his arm strength is way down this year, and that is something that could definitely be a direct result of the shoulder injury that he suffered. But again, is that the new normal, or is that something that he'll regain? That's something we just don't quite know. And I think you have to mention the injuries when you talk about Ha-Seong Kim. You can't ignore the fact that he's turning 30 this offseason. He's played in more than 121 games just twice in 5 big league seasons, dealing with shoulder issues, back issues, finger issues, leg, hamstring, abdominal, triceps, foot, calf issues. He's dealt with a lot in his short time in the big league level, and he's only going to be getting older. Now, I say all of that, I still want Ha-Seong Kim back. And again, a big reason for that is just there aren't any better options. And like I said, we'll talk more about that in the second segment. But let's talk right now about what a contract would look like for Ha-Seong Kim. Despite all of that, I think he still might be the best option to play shortstop this coming up offseason, at least on the free agent market, especially if you don't think that Bo Bichette's going to stick at shortstop long term. My initial thoughts are 3 years, $50 million. That's what I would like to do. That's what I would like to give him, but I think that's going to fall well short because, like I said, I think he could be the top shortstop free agent on the market. You look at the AAV for other top shortstops around Major League Baseball. Francisco Lindor is making $34 million a year. That's the AAV. These are the AAVs of their contract. 34 for Lindor, 33 for Correa, 32 for Seager, 27 for Turner, 26 for Witt, who his max out at $35 million a year. Adames at 26, Swanson at 25, Tatis, who signed as a shortstop, 24 but maxes out at 36. Trevor Story, 23, Javi Baez, 23, and then there's Ha-Seong Kim at $14.5 million this year. Now, I would guess he probably wants somewhere in that $20 to $25 million range, as he's not in that elite company with a Lindor, Correa, Seager, Turner, Witt, maybe not even an Adames, but he's probably more closer to that Adames, Swanson, Trevor Story, Javi Baez type of range, 23 to 26 million. I think he's still a tad below that, or at least maybe that's just what I'm hoping. But I would imagine that's probably the tier that he wants to be in, is that $20 to $25 million a year type of shortstop. So that's where I think the AAV will sit with Ha-Seong Kim. So what about the years? Because like I said, you're talking about a guy that has a lot of injuries. He's going into his age 30 season. I'm sure he's going to want at least 5 years. As I said, I would like to do it for 3 years. I don't know how much the lockout plays into this, or potential lockout. I mean, the 2027 season could be a bust, and players have to work around that, make sure that they, get their money. Obviously, if there's a lockout, they're not going to be getting paid for that, but making sure they have a deal maybe beyond that season. So like I said, I'm sure he'll want 5 years. The Braves will probably want 3 years. AA almost has a bigger hangup on the length of a contract than he does the AAV of a contract. See Freddie Freeman. Freddie Freeman would be here if Alex just gave him a 6th year. He really does not like getting tied down in these long-term contracts. So maybe you meet in the middle at 4 years. 4 years or 3 years in an option would, again, be my preferred offer deal for Ha-Seong Kim. So what does that deal look like? So what about 4 years, $18 million per, with a team option for $15 million and a $5 million buyout? So it's a guaranteed 4 years with a potential 5th year and a guaranteed $77 million. I think that's a pretty fair deal and kind of meets in the middle of where I would want to be and where he probably wants to be. I'd want to be at 3 years, $50 million. He probably wants to be at 5 years, somewhere around $100 million. This kind of meets in the middle of 4 years and $75 million, $77 million, with the buyout on there for a 5th year. And you just kind of hope that he really loves being in Atlanta with Profar and Ozzie. And again, that's kind of what this last month is a little bit about, is not just, seeing what he can offer you, but him getting a chance to see what this Braves team can do. And when we talk about this winning streak the Braves were on, while I'm very much of the belief that, this current success is not going to carry over into next year. You don't carry over momentum from year to year, in my opinion. I know some people disagree with that. I do think that feeling that Ha-Seong Kim has right now could help him in making this decision that is, immediate. So I do think that certainly helps. The only other things here, payroll concerns, I'm still of the belief that the Braves are going to go way past the luxury tax this offseason. They reset it this year. I think they're going to go way past it this year, back to where they were in 2024, where they were over that second tier of the luxury tax threshold. I am of the belief and the hope that that's going to happen again. And yes, you have some big contracts coming off the books like Ozuna, like Iggy, but you also have players getting big raises like Strider, Aaron Bummer, Ronaldo Lopez. They restructured those contracts so that the AAV was higher this year. So they have some guys getting a bump in payroll as well. But I still think they're going to go way beyond the luxury tax this upcoming season. They have to. I'll be pretty upset if they don't. And as I've said on this podcast several times now, Ha-Seong Kim, even if they were to get this done, it would be a big move, no doubt, but it can't be your only big move of this offseason. There is still more that is needed. Whether it's getting Ha-Seong Kim or another shortstop, you still need to go out and get a big bat for DH and outfield. Preferably somebody that can back up Michael Harris in center field. You still need to go out and get at least one proven arm in the rotation, and you still need to go out and get at least two solid bullpen arms. So this can't be the only big move if this is what happens. You need to make sure you have at least $50 million left in the payroll for the upcoming season to go out and make all the moves that you need to give this team the depth to make sure that when injuries happen, things just don't completely fall apart. So that's something to consider as well. And the other thing to consider is that Ha-Seong Kim's agent is Scott Boras, and not somebody that the Braves normally deal with. Last time, as Lindsay pointed out the other day, was Dallas Keuchel. It's just not a guy that they normally do business with because, Boras wants those opt-outs. He wants those player options. He's going to pinch for every single penny that he can get his player, which is why he's so popular and so many guys use him. But AA doesn't, he doesn't deal well with that, as we've seen in the past. Again, look at the Freddie Freeman situation. So you got to figure how that all works out as well. Does AA fold in that and be willing to give a player option to somebody like Ha-Seong Kim to get that deal done? Would he give him an opt-out after the 2026 season? We'll have to see if AA would cave on that for this deal. But let me know what you think about that potential deal. 4 years, 77 million guaranteed, 18 million per year for 4 years, a fifth year option at 15 million with a $5 million buyout. You think that gets it done? You think that's too little? Think that's way too much? I'll get some of your thoughts on that here next, and we'll get into what the other options are going to be this offseason, whether it be externally through free agency, trades, or prospects. We'll get into all of that here next on Locked On Braves.
Fellas, you've probably heard of Viagra or Cialis. Maybe you've even tried them. But if you're looking for something beyond the usual pill, it's time to meet Rougiette Go Long. Because Go Long combines two doctor-trusted medications in one dual-action formula so you can both get hard and go the distance. It's a game changer for confidence. The effects can last up to 36 hours, which is confidence both all day and all night, and even into the next day. Super simple process, 100% online. You connect with a board-certified doctor, and if prescribed, your treatment ships discreetly right to your door. So if you're ready to level up your confidence in the bedroom, head to Rougiette, RUGIET.com, and use promo code LOCKEDONMLB for 15% off your first order. That's Rougiette, RUGIET.com, promo code LOCKEDONMLB. Make sure to use our code so they know we sent you.
There's nothing like catching a baseball game live. The energy, the crowd, the chance to see your team in person, but actually getting tickets, that's the tough part. Queues, login screens, surprise fees, it takes all the fun out of it. That's why I use Game Time, the app that gives the advantage back to us fans. Game Time is fast, easy, and backed by the Game Time guarantee. You'll always get 100% authentic tickets delivered on time and at the best price. Plus, all fees are included. So the price you see, that's the price you pay. I used the Game Time app when I went to the Braves game a couple of Fridays ago. The game was terrible, but my seats were great, and I got a great deal thanks to Game Time. The season is running out. These are your last chances to go out and watch your Atlanta Braves play this year. Check out Game Time. You're going to get a fantastic deal. I can pretty much guarantee you that. They have their zone deals as well. You pick the section. Game Time picks the seats for you, and you save big. So download the Game Time app. Create an account and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Just swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today. Thank you as always for making Locked On Braves your first listen of each and every day. Go check out Locked On MLB for your second listen of the day. We'll be talking about that fantastic game between the Guardians and the Tigers, the Reds, the Mets, all the postseason races here leading up to the final day of the regular season this upcoming Sunday. It is almost over, so make sure that you're locked in on Locked On MLB as well as right here on Locked On Braves. We'll have 2 more podcasts for you this week, including our weekly mailbag episode on Fridays to get your questions ready for that. It'll be our, first one getting close to the offseason or before the offseason, I guess. And then we'll really kick it into gear once the offseason begins. So we talked about Ha-Seong Kim and why it's so important that the Braves lock him up. And I mentioned some of the pitfalls of Ha-Seong Kim. You're paying high on a 75 at bat sample that we've seen here in Atlanta, or whatever it's going to be, 80, 90 at bats that it's going to be by the time things all end here. And it's a guy that's been often injured. It's a guy that's going into his 30s that's been often injured. There are definitely some risk with signing Ha-Seong Kim. But here's the big reason why the Braves need to get it done, and I think they need to get it done now. And I teased this in the first segment because he just might be the best free agent shortstop on the market. And you look at Bo Bichette, who's 27, just had an 840 OPS season with 18 homers, 311 average. He is ending the year injured, although he's hopefully going to be back for the postseason. But among qualified shortstops, he ranks dead last in Fangraph's defensive rating, 22 out of 22. He's also last in outs above average and defensive run saves. By all accounts, from the defensive metrics at least, and again, the defensive metrics are not the end-all be-all to me. And when I watched him this year, I thought he looked fine defensively at shortstop, but it's hard to dismiss when the metrics are that bad. Same when you see metrics that are just that good. Clearly, that's generating something. And when they're that bad, that's telling you something, even without the eye test. But many people don't think that Bo Bichette's going to stick at shortstop. And despite that, he's probably still looking at at least a 6 or 7 year deal for at least 25 million a year. And I mean, you look at it, he's 27 years old. He is still a very young player. He's had some really good offensive seasons. It's almost like Xander Bogaerts. I don't think he's going to get 11 years like Xander did. But they signed him to that contract, moved him to second base real quick. Now, he has gone back to shortstop. But I could see a similar thing happening here with Bo Bichette. You're really just paying for the bat. I don't know that he's going to be a shortstop long term. And the Braves need a shortstop. I mean, certainly you could sign Bo Bichette. I don't think the Braves will. And like $25 million a year is probably going to be on the low end for Bo Bichette, who's likely going to get in that Trey Turner, Xander Bogaerts type of range around $30 million a year. Bogaerts was a little bit lower because they spread it out, but he's probably going to get in that 25. He's going to be in that upper tier of 25 to 30 million a year, just because he's going to be one of the better offensive bats on the market, no matter of where you're going to play him. And I don't think the Braves are going to pay that. And it still doesn't solve the answer at shortstop, which is what the Braves need to do. So when you consider that, and that Ha-Seong Kim might be the best shortstop available, the best true shortstop, somebody you know is going to play there for several years, he might be the best one available. Willie Castro is the only other one that's borderline everyday player, and he's not even really a full-time shortstop, although I would love to go get Willie Castro. I mean, he could be that guy that, could play a little bit of everywhere for you. Can even play some center field, could back up Ozzie at second base. I think it would be great if you wanted to sign Ha-Seong Kim and Willie Castro, and those are your two big moves. I still would like a bigger bat, but if they just did those two things and they took care of the pitching, got at least 1 or 2 starting pitchers and at least 2 bullpen arms, I'd be very happy with that offseason. But I still don't think Willie Castro is your full-time shortstop going forward if you were to make that deal. And I think Ha-Seong Kim can be. So that's where the bigger importance comes in from locking up Ha-Seong Kim now, is just because you need a shortstop for at least the next couple of years. Nobody is really close at the moment. You look at the prospects for the Atlanta Braves. You have Nacho. I think the Braves have officially given up on that idea. You look at Tate Southesine. They just drafted him in the first round. He's probably not going to be ready till 2028, 2029 at the earliest. Alex Lodi's, not a great professional start that I was hoping for. I was hoping he would move pretty quickly, but he looked a little bit overmatched at high A. John Hill ended the year at double A, and he might be the one that, gets there first. Good bat, good speed. Don't know enough about the defense. I can't wait to dive into his defense in this offseason. Jose Perdomo feels like he is a ways away and needs a lot of improvement. That's what you have prospect-wise in your system right now. There is nothing close that you could say, next year, maybe somebody's ready to step at the shortstop position, or really even the season after that. Like I said, unless John Hill is just progressing that quickly and you think he can stick at the shortstop position, which again, I don't know. And I haven't really heard anybody talk about his defense. So that's something I'm going to have to go and break down in the offseason. But there's just nothing there, at least in the next couple of years. And so you get somebody like Ha-Seong Kim to try to bridge that gap. And like I said, there just aren't many other options out there. You could look at a trade. Could you entice the Angels for Zach Neto? Doubtful, but I'd at least try. Throw a bunch of pitching prospects at them. Do you take a chance on a reclamation project like Anthony Volpe? I don't love that just because of the swing profile. Don't give me another Jared Kelenic situation. Do you take on a bad contract and injury risk from Boston again in Trevor Story in hopes that you get another Chris Sale turnaround? No thanks on that either. So I just don't know where you go. Prospect-wise, you could look at the Diamondbacks and maybe see if they're interested in trading Jordan Lawler. Maybe the Mariners, you could somehow convince them to trade Colt Emerson. But there aren't a lot of viable options out there that I think could happen from trade or prospect. I really think your best chance at getting a solidified shortstop for the next couple of years is Ha-Seong Kim. And I think you have to do what it takes to get that deal done. We cannot go into another season with a big question mark at shortstop or have another season of a Nick Allen type that's going to give you good defense, but is going to be one of the worst hitters in baseball. I just cannot have that happen again. So that's why I think it's so important that the Braves go ahead and lock up Ha-Seong Kim if they get the chance. Now, I asked some of you on social media, what do you think would be a good contract for Ha-Seong Kim? And I'll try to read some of the more serious ones here. Lindsay says, the Atlanta max of $22 million AAV, and I'd be willing to go more than 3 years on it, maybe 5, 110. So Lindsay willing to go even higher than I am on it. Julie Craig says 3 years, $75 million with a signing bonus payable this year and 2-year team option. So that's even a lot, $25 million a year for 3 years. Albert Destrato, depends on how they maneuver the payroll around him. Need to move Murphy's money to allocate properly. That could be part of it. Bradley Dover says 10 years, $400 million. That seems a bit rich for my blood. Census said 3 years, $60 million plus $15 million team option. I'd be okay with that. Manlio says 4 and 60. That's not bad either. Alan Hamrick says 3 years, 60 to 66 million, or 4 for 70. Seems like a palatable move, and I agree. I think we're spot on right there. Matt Olson Burner says 3 for 55. That's the deal I would like. That's what Dave Betsy says too, 3 for 54. Eddie also says 3 for 55, maybe 360. So we're all kind of, I think those are, Aegon says that as well. Fair is probably 3 and 54. But I think that's what I would want to give. But I think you're probably going to have to go to that 4th year and probably more guaranteed in that $70-75 million range. Trent Ellis says 3 at 60. So a lot of you kind of in that same ballpark of where I am as what I'd want to be. But I think it's probably going to be, Lindsay's the only one there with the big overpay. So we'll see what Lindsay has to say about that. And Lindsay's a smart guy. He's a big baseball fan too. So it might be more like that. Like I said, I don't know what the market's going to do and how they're going to treat him. And is he the top shortstop, legitimate shortstop on the market? That could play a lot into it, and probably why Boras is going to make him go to free agency, because he could be that top dog. All right, next we'll get into the news of the day, including Major League Baseball implementing the ABS system starting in 2026. We'll get into that here next. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. FanDuel allows you to bet the way you like with player props, building a same-game parlay, or even jumping in live as the action unfolds. It makes every game more exciting, whether you're watching your team or just keeping an eye on your fantasy lineup. The MLB postseason is about to get underway. You can check all those odds and favorites out there at FanDuel.com, or if you've moved on to the NFL and college football season, you can see all of those great odds. A lot of good college football action happening this weekend, especially in the SEC. Some big matchups there, and you can check out the favorites, the who's got the better odds. You can see all that at FanDuel.com. Also, please make sure you visit FanDuel.com/playsafe for tools and resources to help you stay in control of the way you play. So, are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet, and if it wins, you get $300 in bonus bets. So a little bit of, or big news rather, from the day on Tuesday. Major League Baseball announced that they will implement the automated ball strike challenge system in 2026. And just read verbatim from the tweet that they posted out. Each team will get 2 challenges and can keep them if they're successful. I love that. Challenges can only be initiated by a pitcher, catcher, or batter, and the request must come right after the pitch. I love that. To signal a challenge, the pitcher, catcher, or batter will tap his hat or helmet to let the umpire know. No help from the dugout or other players on the field is allowed. I'm talking to you, Astros. In each extra inning, a team will be awarded a challenge if it has none remaining entering the inning. I love it. I love all of this. I am not strictly in favor of a complete robot style umpire that calls every ball and strike, but I think this is the perfect middle ground here for that. And the challenge system, you got a big call in a game, you feel like it was a bad call, tap the helmet. It's going to be interesting to see how teams utilize this. You know, do you tell your players wait until at least the second half of the game or early on? It better be pretty obvious because you don't want to waste those and not get it in a big spot. You know, does it have to be in a run scoring situation? It'll be really interesting. And I want to set the over-under on the number of times that Juan Soto challenges, they call it, probably 565. But I think it will be a really great thing and a really cool thing for Major League Baseball to take out. You know, you watched the game on Monday night. That umpire had no clue. Some of those calls were just so egregious, and not all of them were in big spots, but this will make it so that in those big moments, you now can change the game essentially by getting one of these calls right. So we'll see how that's implemented. We've seen it obviously in the minor league level, spring training, and all-star game and all of that. But I think it's going to be a good thing for the game overall. Ozzie goes on the 10-day IL. They recalled Brett Wisely, who started on Tuesday. They also added Joel Payamps after optioning Nathan Wiles. So still didn't do the right thing and bring up Giancarlo Lara back with the injury. You want to hear a better rant on that, go listen or go read rather Lindsay's newsletter. I thought he did a great job kind of breaking down how Alex Anthopoulos, the Braves, just haven't had much feel with their players this year and how they've handled some of them, whether it was the Craig Kimbrell situation and now the Lara situation. I don't feel like they've done a good job handling players in situations like that, that give you those good vibes and why it's been a place that players want to come to. Now I get it. It's a business decision. I don't think Craig Kimbrell should have been on this team, that long, but I think you could have given a little bit longer leash, and especially with the guys you had there, I think you could have thrown Giancarlo Lara into one game, at least given him 3 batters over the weekend in Detroit, especially on Friday and Sunday's games. So go read Lindsay's letter. He does a great job breaking that down. As far as the game on Tuesday night, Hurston Waldrep, 6 innings, 5 hits, 4 walks, 1 earned run, 5 strikeouts on 92 pitches. 17 whiffs is great. 29 CSW percentage is good. But I loved how he spread out the whiffs in this one. 4 on the sinker, just 3 on the splitter, 5 on the slider, 4 on the curve, and 1 on the cutter. And a very impressive ending to his season. He'll come into spring training with a chance to compete, but having options may actually keep him out unless the Braves go to a 6-man rotation. Obviously, injuries happen, and they seem to happen a lot to the Braves in spring training. They're very cautious with their starters going into a season. So we'll see what happens with Hurston Waldrep, but I don't know that anybody has improved their stock from beginning to end more than Hurston Waldrep did this year. I mean, it was a disastrous March, April. It was looking like they were going to have to give up on him as a starter, made some mechanical changes, and now it's going to be really hard to keep him out of the rotation in 2026. Offense got off to a slow start. Michael Harris, 2 home runs. He's now 1 home run and 1 stolen base shy of that 2020 season. Cunha with a solo shot as well for a 20 home run season for himself, which is pretty incredible. He's 2 steals away from a 20-10 season. I think he could have stolen a lot more if he wanted to and needed to. But just good to see him come out, get that home run stroke back. He's looking more like himself in this final week plus. Well, that will do for this episode of Locked On Braves. Like I said, we'll have 2 more shows this week, including our weekly mailbag episode on Friday afternoon. Make sure you check out the postcast. Me and Lindsay wrapping up the season here the rest of this week. You can get that right here in the Locked On Braves podcast feed. Hit that subscribe button, hit that thumbs up button, leave me a comment down below. Make sure that you rate, review, and subscribe to the Locked On Braves podcast wherever you get your podcast, and we will talk to you next time.